Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is Green Lantern Green Arrow Volume 2. And in this case, the video is about Green Lantern number 87, the first appearance of John Stewart. And so as I mentioned here with these Denny O'Neil, Neal Adams pair-ups with Green Lantern and Green Arrow, the early ones are very political. The issues in this volume are a lot better. I think Denny O'Neil kind of like begins to start to be more nuanced and start to tiptoe it a little bit with how political he gets. This comic definitely has some elements of the politics that Denny liked in the beginning, but it's done a little bit better than the first three issues. Anyhow, we start off. Hal Jordan is in California, and there's an earthquake going on. You know, he powers up his Green Lantern, goes out to save people. And remember when I did that last video and I mentioned that Guy Gardner's, at least Silver Age Guy Gardner, is kind of boring as fuck? Well, Denny O'Neil agrees, and Guy Gardner gets, so he's saving. First off, how is Guy Gardner in California when he's normally on the East Coast? I don't know how that makes any sense, but okay. But he's going to save this little kid, and a bus hits him in the back on the way down. Hal Jordan's able to save the kid and Guy Gardner, but Guy Gardner gets put out of commission, and he gets put into intensive care for a couple months. This forces the Guardians of Oa and Hal to reconsider, because Guy Gardner was kind of the backup to Hal Jordan. At least that's the way they kind of try to explain it in the older Silver Age comic. So now they have to find a new backup now that Guy Gardner is kind of out of commission. In steps in John Stewart, and you get a pretty interesting introduction with him. You got a couple of guys playing dominoes, and the officer here is giving him a hard time. John Stewart walks by and tells him, hey, screw off, dude. They're playing dominoes, and they don't need a permit to do that. Very much a challenging of authority. So, yeah, unfortunately, in today's world, I don't think you could do this. Or at least I personally wouldn't talk back to cops, unless you want to get shot. But, yeah, it's a very interesting introduction. He's able to kind of tell the cops off, and the cops leave. The scene doesn't really impress Hal much. He doesn't particularly like his lack of deference to authority, but the Guardians kind of like, just shut up and do what we tell you to do. And Hal's like, fine, whatever. So he goes in there, and he goes takes him out to lunch. And by the way, is this like a milk mustache? I was looking at this and I was like, what the hell is John Stewart? Is that a milkshake or something? I didn't get it after a while, and I don't know if this was like the first time they did the milk mustache commercials was in the 70s, but I was always kind of weirded out when I saw this. So Green Lantern basically explains to him the job, and I was like, yeah, do you want to do this? And here we also find out that John Stewart's not just some kind of bum. He's actually an architect, but in the time that he's living in here in the 70s, there's not a lot of work for him to go around, so he's like, hey, let's try to be a superhero. Of course, you got a lot of play on words, some of them not so fun, like calling himself Black Lantern. So Hal Jordan kind of demonstrates all the fun stuff. He even goes through the ritual with them. I actually like this phrase right here. John Stewart's like, man, that's pretty corny, except for the part that says, beware my power. Kind of likes that. And so Hal Jordan gives him his threads, except John Stewart, which kind of remains with him. He chucks the mask because he doesn't really like the mask. And they go off to do superhero stuff. So here a tank comes flying at some protesters. Hal Jordan saves the people that are in danger, where John Stewart stops the bus. By the way, this image is kind of surprising. So he hits the side of the bus, but here it kind of turns around and goes in that direction. The other weird thing is, like, this is Hal Jordan and this is John Stewart, but right here, because of the coloring in here, this looks like Hal Jordan that stops the truck. Very weird. Anyway, this is supposed to be John Stewart, and the oil gets punctured on the top side, and it hits the senator here. And John Stewart doesn't really give a crap because this senator is apparently a known racist. Which in the 70s there were actual racist senators. Senators from the South that were for segregation and all this kind of stuff. So it makes sense with the storyline. But Hal doesn't like him, his rebelliousness. He just wanted him to act like a superhero, but he's a little bit, he's a little bit of his own guy, right? He's going to do what he wants to do. So they kind of come into immediate conflict because they don't really like that. And I think what's really funny here is that so Hal accuses him of having purposely thrown oil on the senator, and it was like, I don't believe you missed. And John Stewart replies back, okay, I did. Listen, Whitey, that windbag wants to be president. He's a racist, and he figures on climbing to the White House on the backs of my people. And, and Hal is like, okay, I get it, but first off, one last thing, don't call me Whitey. I like this right here. And it's actually a really good writing by Denny O'Neil. In the past issues, he kind of made Green Lantern out to be a bit of a freaking wuss when he was confronted with this sort of challenges. But through the run, he's actually kind of matured Green Lantern, where Green Lantern's not unsympathetic to John Stewart, but he also is like, hey, I don't care. You better freaking respect authority, and we'll go deal with your injustice later, right? And I like that. It really defines the two characters very well. Anyhow, they kind of witness an assassination attempt of the senator, and whereas Hal goes to stop this guy, John Stewart instead finds these other people that are about to get killed and stops this gunman right here. And when Hal Jordan kind of confronts him, like, hey, what the hell are you doing, dude? John Stewart kind of turns it around to him and explains what's going on. And here you get another side to John Stewart, and that in the beginning he the way the writing is written, it kind of makes him feel almost a little too stereotypical of a black guy from the 70s. But Denny O'Neil kind of turns it around and shows his intelligence right here, that he figured out that, hey, this guy here was shooting at the senator, but nobody fell, nobody crumpled over, nothing. The guy was shooting blanks. And he kind of knew at that point that the senator was trying to set up to incite a race war. And so John Stewart was able to stop the real problem. And Hal Jordan was then kind of, looks back and he's like, oh, okay. Like, you're not bad, dude. I get you, right? So it's actually a very interesting introduction to John Stewart. What I think is kind of funny is he's got an afro in this one, and I know in later ones he kind of gets a more short hair look. And I think that's the kind of look that everybody kind of recognizes John Stewart as having. Yeah, man, I actually, there were times where this issue kind of teetered on the point of like, oh no, is Denny O'Neil going to do it to me again? But it actually ended up being very, very well written, and really like this issue quite a bit. And it's a good starting issue for this character. Anyhow, that's it. Let me know what you think about this review. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you have any comments on John Stewart, Green Lantern John Stewart, or this issue that he first appears in, leave them down below, and I will see you next time.